welcome. I just want to say thank you for joining us for today's conversation. This is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, and the topic for today is your firm, your legacy, retire with confidence, and we'll be talking with our special guest, Chris Tabb with Right Exit. And we'll go into a little bit more about what Right Exit is as well. But here's what to expect from today's conversation: how to preserve your firm's core values once you retire, the qualities that make your firm attractive for succession or acquisition, and the power of clear communication to ensure a smooth transition for your staff as well as your clients. So if mergers and acquisitions, your exit plan is something that you've been thinking about, even if it's a little bit off in the distance, I suggest you get ready to take some notes, because Chris is going to generously share so much. And then we'll show you how to connect with him as we wrap up. So a little bit about Chris. He's a seasoned entrepreneur and strategist with 2 successful exits under his belt. He currently leads the strategy and development of Right Exit, which is a RightWorks lab innovation that helps accounting firm owners prepare for M&A transactions. So if you don't know what M&A is, that's mergers and acquisitions, buy and sell. With over a decade in technology and fintech, Chris excels at leveraging data-driven insights to optimize deal structuring and relationship building. So you can learn more about Chris Tabb and Right Exit at home.exit.rightworks.com. So it is a long URL. We will put that below as well, so you can just click on it. But enough about that, the overview. Chris, I just want to get into this conversation. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for reaching out. And this feels like it's overdue. We've been talking for 6 months. So I'm glad we were able to make it happen today, Lauren.
And before we get into the conversation, just what was it that drove you in this direction of wanting to be focusing on mergers and acquisitions for firm owners?
Yeah, it's really and Lauren, I'm sure you've lived this as well. You just have several careers, right? And it's great when they come to a point in your life where they all merge into one offering, right? It feels like sometimes you've been doing things for several years, not knowing you're preparing for this. And that's sort of my story. You said at the beginning, 2 exits. I'll say up front, I'm always happy to talk to people and counsel them even one-on-one. My exits weren't great. I did not have a great experience, especially my second one wasn't really great. So coming out of that experience, it really stuck in my mind of, hey, there's got to be a better way to do this. And a lot of that we'll talk as we go through about, intermediation in the different parties and community. And then the second piece was, I've always been a big fan of technology. I think that technology can solve sometimes problems that we often struggle with. They may be small problems, but they end up having a big impact downstream. So when the opportunity came to come work with RightWorks and working in an innovation lab where we really could move very quickly to solve these problems, it felt like an opportunity that both I would enjoy, but then also I could deliver tremendous value to people.
Excellent. And I know that one of the things that comes up as a priority when firm owners are first thinking about possibly selling their firm is the people. So they want to make sure that if somebody's going to step in, that somehow the values and the culture that they already built up is preserved. And is there a way to be able to successfully do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jody Badar comes to mind. She's got a great talk track on this around, it feels like dating, when you're initially being introduced to buyers or buyers being introduced to sellers, you're really feeling each other out at that point. Both do we have a good connection today? Could we envision a place where we do end up working together and the business goes into a transitionary period? But then I also think if we back it up to finding the right buyer, right? So typically in the accounting space, under $5 million, you have, private equity, of course. You have search funders who are coming in. They're typically backed by, outside capital. The CV is typically the same, Harvard, MBA, maybe worked for a couple of years at a Big Four. And then you also have existing accounting owners, right, who want to grow. And then finally, you have more of that tech community, folks coming out of Silicon Valley, have some money in their pocket. Maybe they just did an exit and they're looking to get into the accounting space because they're attracted to the margins, right? I lay those types of buyers out Because really, as a seller, you have to understand which one of these folks are going to continue my legacy, if that's what you want to do, right? You may be ready just to hang it up and, you look at the business as an asset. Or if you want to continue the legacy, it's about finding the right fit, right? Private equity may not be the right fit, right? A search fund may not be the right fit. Maybe it's another accounting owner which lives in your town, has similar services, and you would be a good integration, right? So I think it's not only about how do you feel, but then also what has the person done, or what has the company accomplished in the last few years as far as a track record, which you can sort of then overlay. Okay, what would it look like if they subsumed my firm into their operation?
And is there something different to consider when we're maybe talking with smaller firms, the small to mid-size that are under 5 million a year in revenues?
You hit it right there. Alan Colton is a great source of information in this community. He represents typically those, or the stories that he's involved in are typically north of the $50 million, area. So you and I often are talking to a much smaller,
Mhm.
revenue, EBITDA numbers, things like that. So you're right. If I'm an accounting firm today, and let's say I'm a CPA, right, or I'm a bookkeeping firm. This is even better. Bookkeeping firm. There has been a trend over the last few years of where people will turn their nose up at bookkeeping from a purchase perspective, right? They look at it as like, oh, who wants orphan 1040s? Who wants to get like all these questions, right? Now you're seeing this emergence of technology solutions that are buying those. They're buying
Mm.
orphan. They want them, right? They're building businesses. So often, when we think about how do I best position my firm for sale, how do I attract the right buyer, it comes down to a lot of how am I set up today, and how am I going to be acting? How am I going to plan for the future?
Interesting. I love looking at that because I talk to so many firm owners and they've been doing things in a very traditional way and they want to shake things up, but it feels like it challenges their comfort zone. So you're saying if you want to be able to exit and not just close down everything, you need to be a little bit willing to challenge that comfort zone and step out of doing things the traditional way that you've always been doing them.
Yeah, and we typically filter this conversation, Lauren,
Mhm.
through 24, 18 months, right? Somebody already has an idea in their head, something has happened, they're moving towards it. I'm not saying succession planning is too late at all at that point. It's a great place to start. But my wife actually just opened up a business, and we were talking this morning, and I had mentioned I was speaking with you later, and she said, well, when should I start doing succession planning? And her business literally opened up 2 months ago. They've got a waiting list, it's a daycare, great operation. But
Mhm.
it occurred to me, yeah, it is never too early. you
Mhm.
know, she's 33, in great health, but who knows? I mean, we live in the world. It would be great to have a succession plan identified, employees who would take over. What does the business look like without her being involved in it, right? She can't be generating 85% of the revenue and then no longer be in the picture. That's not attractable for anybody.
Exactly. Hmm.
So it's a number of things. And the timing is, when do you want to have peace of mind, essentially, is what I would say at a really simplistic level.
And one of the things you were mentioning a moment ago was about technology, innovation, and that those are some things that make a firm attractive for potential acquisition or buyers. Let's talk about the role that technology and innovation does play, no matter what size your firm is, when you're looking to maybe sell your firm.
And I don't want to plug, RightWorks or
Mhm.
Nina sort of focusing on that story, but there is a great story that I'm seeing in some internal studies where if you are a RightWorks firm and you sell to another RightWorks firm, there's an instant efficiency that you gain there in the way that the systems interact, the downtime that you would need, and then also just the different accounting teams coming in, right, trying to handle that. If it's a single provider like RightWorks, there's an immediate story there. It's also about, and I think you're starting to you're touching on, what if I'm a traditional practice and I meet my clients face to face, I do a lot of paperwork, I'm sending a lot of mailers, things like that. I think technology is going to be your best friend over the next couple of years, and you have AI coming in very strongly, and that should be a wake up call. If you're not on that technology continuum already, you really need to start focusing there, because there are AI solutions that are coming in and are able to operate at a less resource cost, right? Take off some of the busy work from your staff. I think anybody that's doing AI and technology right now shouldn't be looking to replace employees. They should be looking to enhance those employees. And that goes hand in hand with succession planning, exit planning, transitioning out of your business. If you can start thinking now about how can you maximize the revenue that each one of those employees is generating, that's where technology, innovation, AI starts to come in. It's not something to be scared of. There's some really great solutions out there, whether it's WriteWorks or it's TR. There's some really good solutions coming to market right now.
I want to support that comment because I recently read about the Big Four and how they've been using AI. And one of the things that they found is that their junior level accountants can now do what someone that has 3 years seniority was doing. So it actually fast tracks the evolution and the path of your more junior people so that it increases their value and they can do more than what traditionally if it was done manually or without AI. Is that part of what you've been seeing also?
It is, and when we have a sister product here at the Innovation Lab, it's Spark. It's AI built for accounting firms, and that's very much the way that they think. Is there is a lot of work that your employees are doing today, which is just busy work, right? It's things that they do over and over again, whether it's writing an answer to a question that they get that's very common, right? Or if it's a form that they need to send over, or if there's information they're missing, right? All of these things can be built into automated systems with some AI behind it. So it doesn't feel fake, or it doesn't, you're not having misfires. Some of these systems are, as you know, are incredibly intuitive on what they should be doing and when they should be doing it.
And as we're talking about that, one of the questions that's coming up on my mind that we didn't touch on earlier, but I see it as a reality is, does a rural or an accounting firm that's in a small community need to think about some things differently than one that's in a larger metropolitan area?
They absolutely do. And I put out a data study maybe a week or two ago. I think I published it on a Saturday. I can share it back on the podcast. But we did an analysis of the $5 million market, and you do see some real opportunities in there, right? So there's folks who are running bookkeeping firms in rural areas, and you see the multiples are definitely lower than what you will find in major metros. However, a lot of the major metros, though, they have a lot of competition. So when you're doing a competitive analysis in those local markets, you should really be paying attention to, okay, if I'm buying a practice at an elevated multiple because of the geography, truly how much runway do I have to expand into this area? And then on the rural side, with the introduction of remote work over the last 3 years, AI, the ability to even leverage offshore teams. Like I know Anshul is somebody that we both talked to a lot, June 15th Consulting. He's got the direct ownership model. I think when you start bringing into play these things, you don't have to be priced as a rural shop if you don't want to be, right? And that's the point. Like you can have control of this and you can be very attractive to the right buyer.
And that's something I've been seeing also, Chris, is that because of technology and the way that things are moving right now, is no matter where you're located, you can be equally competitive and attractive if you have the right structure in place for someone that's looking to buy a firm and gain through acquisition as opposed to organic growth.
And on the flip side, I know we're talking a lot about succession, but on the flip side, if I'm a buyer, and I said discounts earlier because that it is possible to pick up a discount bookkeeping practice in a rural area right now, right? Many of these listings that I've seen are, they're folks on their way out. They kind of want to hang it up. It's been too much, and maybe they haven't taken the right steps in succession planning to truly get the value out of that business that they may have been able to generate had they done the technology, identified the succession, found the right buyer for their practice, those types of things. I know we're all busy. We're not thinking about those things, but setting some time aside, I think during in between, tax season ending and what is it? Is it renewal? No, it's extensions and extension season. I think that's a perfect time to really, yes, go on vacation, enjoy the family, but then maybe come by and spend about a month before the extension season starts and thinking about how could I get my business shaped up for succession, just in case something terrible happens in the next year.
I love how you're really thinking about the future and what you want to do down the road instead of just what's going on right now for firm owners. So emerging trends, anything in the M&A market that you're seeing that needs to be considered by firm owners because it's going to make a difference?
I would distill. I actually want to take this moment just to dispel one myth, and I think
Sure.
the myth is private equity is coming for the $5 million market. They are, absolutely. It's just not happening yet. And I think if you're reading a lot of these like Accounting Today stories and you're seeing some of these announcements, you're definitely getting the feeling maybe as a $5 million sub $5 million practice owner that they're coming. They're not quite yet. You're still primarily dealing with your search funders, your other accounting practice owners, and your tech folks who are coming into the space. However, if you're thinking about maybe as an owner going on the offensive and maybe buying a couple of practices and putting together a roll-up vehicle, then you could be maybe 10 million on paper, but you turn around and sell it for 2025 to private equity in a couple of years, because now you have a more complete vehicle that you can sell them that isn't just limited to one offering or one office. The second thing I would say is that the SBA program right now, I know a couple of lenders in there, they are very interested in working with folks in the sub $5 million accounting market, especially existing owners looking to purchase another firm. And part of that is it's a lot easier to get that deal done when the codes match up and you have a business that's already operating today and generating profit. You may be in a situation where you may not have to put anything down. So I think right now, if I were an accounting firm owner and I had a strong, healthy business and I was maybe 35, 40, under 50, and I was really looking to grow, I think right now is the biggest opportunity probably in the last 5, 10 years to go get those types of practices that you want to acquire.
Okay, so growth by acquisition, I think it goes ahead and fast tracks your exit plan if that's what you're thinking of down the road. And also that you can get that SBA loan, and that's going to make something more attractive as well to a potential M&A, is if you know that that funding is going to be available.
And then I would really quickly, I would just revert back to what I said earlier around bookkeeping practices and anybody who's doing like one-off 1040 work. A lot of that work gets a bad name. If you go on Reddit and you read the comments, like it seems like nobody wants to be in that space. But I'll tell you, Tax Titans is on my radar. I know a couple other, I know Decimal, Matt Tate is running some things right now. There are companies who are interested in buying bookkeeping for bookkeeping clients. Or if you're an existing owner right now and you want to get shaped up as part of your succession planning, and you know that you want to sell to private equity, but private equity isn't going to want those clients, start thinking now of how you can soft land them over the next 18, 24 months. And it might be working with somebody from, like from Decimal, like Matt, or it might be some other, contacts that we have in the industry who are looking for those types of clients. So yeah, I think there's a ton of trends going on right now. It's hard because this area is also so fragmented. It's like a CPA firm under $5 million versus, a firm that's doing advisory work under $5 million. Those are completely different businesses.
And what I'm getting from all this, Chris, is that if this is something that is top of mind for a firm owner, instead of figuring out yourself, then go to the right exit community or find someone that is already aware of mergers and acquisitions, that specializes in accounting firms, and connect with them, maybe hire them for consultation strategy. So you are well positioned, and this way it's going to be an investment that pays for itself down the road.
Yep. And maybe this is the pivot point where I plug exit here, but that's exactly what we're looking to build. I looked at the space back in November, and what had occurred to me was there's a ton of experts. They're just not in one place. If I was an accounting firm owner looking to sell my practice right now, I wouldn't know where to start. I don't know who is good in this business. There's no sort of badging. There's no reviews. So we've built the community where, and Lauren is one of our advisors in the community, where we're constantly putting out tidbits from these folks. And the idea, like Lauren said, is look, we don't want to stand in your way. We want to put together an ecosystem and a landscape where you can feel comfortable. You can connect on your own persuasion on who you want to go to, right? We don't play favorites here. And then second of all, finding ways to maybe be a little bit more involved in that process, right? When you bring in third parties, you lose some of that control. And especially in the succession phase, I think it's very important for the owner to be closely connected to that process and not taking maybe a McKinsey, sort of, plan of what you should be doing.
Right. Well, of course, it's their baby. They
Right.
typically built it from the ground up, or they put a lot of time, sweat, and their own resources into it. So, of course, they want to make sure that it gets the kid glove treatment. But the other part that's coming up for me is, okay, generational differences. When we're thinking about mergers and acquisition, it's the older generation that's usually doing the selling, and it's a younger generation that is going to be the buyers. So anything that you recommend to kind of navigate some of those generational differences?
Well, we're kind of butting up against resourcing here in the same question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think this advice would be applicable to anybody who wants to hire the best and the brightest and equip people. You're absolutely right. The technology, the resourcing landscape has changed. I sat down with Amber Eisner a couple months ago, and they were telling me about how interns are negotiating offer letters now, just like they're professional sports people. Like, and I actually talked to Anshul. He was at a conference in California a couple weeks ago. He said the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. He saw it. So I think you have to be prepared to pay top dollar for somebody if you want them to be a individual contributor day one, or you have to be able to identify good talent and be able to coach them up. And this starts to get into ESOPs. So I think this is where a little bit of a generational divide, right? If I own a company and previously, and maybe I've owned this company for 40 years, I typically haven't given any equity to my employees, right? They earn a paycheck, they're my W-2s, maybe we're a family, right? But all of the equity stays with me. What you're seeing a lot with these new models is that, yes, younger founders are coming in, they're buying these companies, but then they're creating ESOPs. So the employees have equity plans in which they're a part of, and they can earn those units over a period of time. So it's the ability to retain staff, give them ownership, and then also, if I'm somebody coming into work and I've got a potential at maybe an exit on a business in a couple of years, it makes me a little less concerned when the business is going towards exit, right? We built this together. I'm a part of it. I'm going to be taken care of post. So that would be my insight, is just bring them in deeper than just giving them a paycheck.
And one of the things I would think about that is it actually creates more loyalty. They have more of an ownership mentality because they're vested in it in some way. And as a result of that, it's going to be something that pays off down the road. And the other part that I see a lot of times is with the firm owners, maybe they want to retire, but it's something that they are a little hesitant about also. So is there any insights that you've seen that help with that transition out of being a firm owner into retirement?
There was a great YouTube channel I just found the other day. I was actually searching for it before we jumped on, because this gentleman had such a great perspective on it. He coaches owners during the exit phase on getting ready for retirement and what are you retiring into, right? So men often have difficulty when they retire of what do they do, right? And so you should have a hobby, you should have a passion, you should have something that resonates with you and defines you outside of just being a business owner, right? And I think that's important when you're going through this process. It's very emotional, but you should have something on the other end that you're retiring into, not just, okay, I'm going to stop working and that's it. We're going to go travel, which is great. Also, I love travel. Maybe that's your passion. Maybe that's what you're retiring into, is
Right.
travel.
Okay, so and from my experience, I've been on both sides of the mergers and acquisitions. We've bought businesses and we've sold businesses, and I want to say that it's something when you know what you're doing, you feel comfortable, can go very, very smoothly and be something that enhances your life. But if it's something where you're going into it or it doesn't go as smoothly, it's going to create a lot of stress and tension. So I think that having someone like you're talking about, Chris, that has already been through this or can guide you through this is going to make a big difference in the long run, especially if you're looking at this as your final exit plan. You don't want to be one of those firm owners that sells and then realize you can't stay home all day long. It's not working for you, so you go back to work again. That's not what most of us want to do. So I appreciate your insight about really giving it some thought as to what retirement looks like for you. Because it could be going in a new direction or giving back to the community in some way that you were never able to before. And I think that there's so much more than just thinking that you're going to live out your days on your porch, sitting on the rocking chair, waiting for the sunset to go down.
Right. For most people, especially these folks, they've built a business, they've been
Mm-hmm.
successful. It's just not in their DNA typically to just hang it all up and do nothing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we get to the point where you have someone who's ready to buy your firm. You feel like it's a good fit, and you want to be able to now have that smooth transition. So, what is it that you might do to really make sure that this not just works for you as the seller, but it's going to work for your clients as well as plus people that are going to be coming in as the new owners? Anything that helps to just smooth the whole process for all the people involved.
Yeah, it's really simple, and it's actually the cause of most problems in life. It's just good communication, right? So if you have
Hmm.
poor communication, things are going to go downstream. You know, your employees might feel like they're caught off guard. Your customers may not feel like they are in the loop. So as soon as you, and I know this is going to come down to, right, ink is on the paper and dry, but really once that's happening, you want to move as quickly as possible and not be caught behind the eight ball. You know, maybe an announcement goes out or an employee posts something on LinkedIn. You want to be in front of that. Additionally, I think bringing in somebody who is non-biased, right, but still works for you in a sense. So a consultant type, I know a couple of them. They can both operate on the people management side, the account management side, or the technology side. But I think it's important to have somebody in the room that doesn't work for you or hasn't been with you this entire time, so they're not so jaded. But then also somebody that can act as a referee for the buyers who are coming in and they're making requests. You know, they can kind of vet those types of things. You're also in an emotional state at that point, so you may
Hmm.
not be well equipped to sort of deal with all of these things, especially the finer details.
And I think that that's so true. That's what we saw when we went ahead and purchased our first business is that um, what we thought we were doing because we were so new to this. And the reality of what happened were two very different things. And we really needed some outside resources to kind of help us navigate that. So it would be a win-win in the long run. So definitely bring in someone from the outside so that it can be as smooth as possible. The other thing I know you talked about was talent and maybe that equity plan. Is there any other strategies that you've seen that keeps your team members engaged and committed, even though you're going through a change in leadership and ownership?
Yeah, I think it starts before the transaction. I think it's about sitting down with each one of your employees and either letting them know they will be soft landed, right? They'll have a home, um, or they won't. And I think it's just being a good person and taking care of people. And you know, if you believe in karma or not, right? But you should take care of those people who aren't being soft landed, um, because I think that's often the biggest piece that people pick up on the outside is the voices of the folks who weren't treated the best during a transition, and that
Mm-hmm.
can lead over into staining the brand, you know, or causing some discontent maybe with some previous relationships that individual had with your clients. So yeah, take care of people on the way out if they're not being transitioned over to you, and be upfront with them and have that communication.
I think the other thing that I've seen, especially with for smaller firms, and the fact that there is a talent shortage here, is there is some people looking at buy firms because they want to acquire your team.
Yep.
That is something that is very, very attractive, is the fact that you already have seasoned talent there and it lets them absorb that seasoned talent. So has that something that you've been seeing as well?
Yes, I had a conversation with one of our community advisors about a week ago, and he was saying that it is, as the acquirer, you need to avoid taking the bait of firing the executive team, because you know you may come in and think, well, we've got this covered. We have it's duplicative in nature, but what you can't account for is the tribal knowledge of the business. the things that aren't documented, the little things about the particular clients, right? You should know that maybe are not going to be in the sales force. So yeah, avoid that bait and try to transition them over as long as possible. I know this is a business transaction. We can't, just have people hanging on forever, but don't come in and fire the executive team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never heard the word tribal knowledge before, so I love that term. It makes so much sense because there's nuances within any firm culture that someone from the outside is not going to know right away. And we want to make sure that this works for everybody, all the people involved. So, Chris, you've made some powerful points. I learn from you each and every time we have a conversation. Some of the things that we touched on is how to preserve your firm's core values once you retire, the qualities that make your firm attractive for succession or acquisition, and the power of clear communication to ensure that smooth transition for staff as well as clients. So if somebody wanted to find out more about Right Exit or just have a conversation with you, Chris, what's the best way to do that? And I also know you have a resource to share.
Absolutely. So if you're on LinkedIn right now, I'd say just go up to the search bar, search Right Exit by Right Works. We should pop up. Give us a follow, and then always feel free to connect with me and message with me. I probably will reach out to you in the next couple of days. I usually do a pretty good job at reaching out to new followers. And the other thing I would say is if you want to be involved in the community, Lauren, she knows this firsthand. We love to speak with folks who have a level of knowledge that can be very beneficial for our community. So if you are somebody like that, don't hesitate. Please reach out to me. I'll meet with you. Let's get you a video. We'll get you introduced to the community. And then, resource. We have a succession guide that we have. It's both available in a downloadable link. And then also, if you go to the Right Exit page, we have a OpenAI GPT that we built. So if you're familiar with OpenAI GPT, you can just go on. It will answer any questions you have, and it's all informed by, I think it's over 100 pages of succession that we built in a playbook.
Excellent. Chris, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you for everybody that's been joining us. This is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, showing firm owners how to double their income working half the time.